Okay, we are live. Good morning. This is attorney Vince Davis, and this is The Secret, How to Fight CPS and Win. And we're joined today by a very special guest, Miss Latrika Jones. Miss Jones, how are you?
I am doing great. Thank you for asking.
Good. So, what state are you in?
I am in Texas.
What part of Texas are you in?
I'm in Fort Worth. We're right next to maybe about 20 minutes from Dallas.
Oh, yeah, I know where that is. As a matter of
Okay.
fact, maybe about a year ago, I was visiting some friends in Fort Worth. Uh,
Really?
Yeah, right outside of Fort Worth is another little town. I can't even think of the name, but
Uh,
landed in Dallas, drove through Fort Worth, and to the little town where they live. But yeah,
we
I'm.
have a
I'm
lot of different towns that people say so Texas is so wide and spread out, like it's so many different counties. Like,
are you from that area originally?
yes, I am. I'm actually born and raised here in Fort Worth. So yes.
Okay, all right. You a Cowboy fan?
Um,
No, not really.
no, not really. I watch the game. I do, but I'm not like a yeah.
Okay. So, what's going on with you and CPS in Fort Worth, Texas?
Oh my gosh. Wow. I have definitely, it seemed like I've been watching your show and I was so moved by it and because it's personal for me. I have honestly been dealing with CPS, seem like, if not the majority of my life, a great deal with my children. And the last incident that occurred is that um, I went through the system with my son, and it was so brutal. It was very brutal. It was very life changing. It was very disturbing. And that's why I was so admired when I saw your show, because I'm like, this is an attorney that obviously has to have a heart and compassion for families like myself that had no idea what all was getting ready to change my life, literally. And it changed my life so greatly after I came out of the my CPS case. It took nearly a year. But I can assure you, by the grace of God, they were ordered to return my son after they literally, I think, tried every single thing you could possibly imagine that I went through. Um, and it was so bad. Actually, uh, I was led to write a book about it.
Oh,
Um, yes, I wrote a book about it, and I've never thought about writing a book ever in my life. Trust me, that never even crossed my mind. But I do believe, as I was going through my journey, that God said you need to start journaling and you need to write that, and I'm going to use it one day. And that's what I did. It was almost a way for me to channel out all the emotions, all the pain, all the anguish, all the disappointment, all the newfound unfortunate realities that I didn't even know that the law that this world was allowed to do. But anyway, but yes, to answer your question, that um I went through nearly a year of CPS, removing my child, saying that I abandoned my child. um it went from that to them placing my child at the time, he was only 4, in a mental ward. Um, they placed him there, and I never will forget that particular day. I got a phone call from a caseworker, and he said, "Oh, matter of fact, I'm sorry. I was calling to check on what was taking place." And he did advise me, "Oh, yeah, I was meaning to call you." And I knew at that point, from dealing with CPS, that something else was going on, something big. And he went on to share that, well, we decided to place your 4-year-old son in a mental ward. And I just remember pulling over in my car, and I just started to cry. And before I knew it, he hung the phone up on me. He was like, "I'm not going to talk to you while you're in that, that way. And when you calm down and call me back." And from that day to nearly a year later, it seemed like I was living in complete um, hell.
well, what started all of this? How did this even start?
Great question. They had told me I had received a phone call. I had received a phone call where it's as if my son was taking ADHD medicine. Some of the medicine I wouldn't administer because with my son is small frame, and some of it would cause him to act lower his blood pressure and things of that sort. So like I said, I got many different phone calls, from different things. But one of them was he wasn't getting a medicine administered. I was also dealing with the X. I do think that's the original reason that triggered CPS, and that is one of my questions I have for you, because it seemed like people that have any type of spite against you or anything that like I said, this is now my ex-husband, that they would use anything that they know that that's a weapon that they can use, and they would interrogate you. And that's how it originally initiated. Is I do believe it was a phone call from an ex or ex-girlfriend that was using it as spite against me.
Yeah, typically, that I'd say maybe 35-40% of cases start that way.
Yes.
We in California, we have something called the mandatory reporter
Mm-hmm.
statute, but anybody can report you. The landlord who's mad at you because you weren't paying rent during COVID, you know,
Yes. I realized,
um,
my
or
God.
the roommate who you kicked out because they were using drugs. You
Mm.
know, you I can't even tell you how many stories I've heard where people have been reported as part of retaliation. It is
Yes.
definitely a weapon that is used to get back at you. Definitely.
Oh my God. And I even had the ex to admit after the fact, after I went through the months of investigation. Well, I'm sorry I did it because I was mad at you. But I mean, my God, like that can go on your credit. I mean, your file. I mean, it's hard to be removed. I mean, and it's damaging being interrogated by the CPS constantly coming to your house, going to your son's school, going to your job. I mean, it puts you in a totally different world. So I, I was wondering if there are any type of laws that can govern um, families that are being targeted with people making malicious or strifeful attempts at you to get back at you for whatever reason they're mad about, to protect us from stuff like this.
In California, I don't know about Texas, but in California, I mean, there really aren't, right? Because there's some type of immunity when people report child abuse. And the way the law and
Right.
the community looks at it is, so what if your rights are a little trampled on? Protecting kids is more important.
Mm-hmm.
And I could agree with that, except now there's always this exception. What about the
Right.
person who lies, who does it just to get back at you? They told a bold-faced lie. I think
Yes.
that you could still do something like, suing them for some type
Mm-hmm.
of defamation or slander, but I'm sure that they will get an attorney, and the smart attorney would do what I would do. I would say,
Mm-hmm.
well, wait a minute, this speech that or complaint that I gave is protected because we were, worried about the kiddies, the children,
Mm. Wow.
right?
Wow.
So then you
Right.
have to overcome that. But I believe that one day, I don't know when, courts are going to start, the pendulum's going to swing to the other side and say, well, wait a minute. You purposely lied to get back at her, to get
Yes.
back at Latrika because you were mad
Yes.
at her. Oh, we have
Yes.
to hold you accountable for that, sir. I don't know if your state is there yet. I would say that California is not quite there, right?
Okay.
And I
I
think
don't
that,
think Texas is either.
and I think this is, by the way, this happens across the country. I've gotten
Wow.
calls from everyone, probably from every state in this country.
Oh my
I've
God.
gotten, I've gotten calls from Alaska, Hawaii, you
Are
know,
you serious?
yeah, yeah. I mean, and the first time I got a call from Alaska, I was kind of shocked because I don't know why. I just never assumed that they would have CPS laws, and and this is
I
years
wouldn't
ago.
either.
those years ago, I still had ideas of justice and fairness, in our
Right.
judicial system. And
Right.
yeah, I mean, it was the same playbook in Alaska that it was in Florida,
Oh my
right?
God.
And
Right.
I think that, I was talking to somebody about this yesterday. I said, "What
Hmm.
type of job do you do?" And he said, "Well, I'm a chef." And I said, "Well, do you belong to any organizations, for chefs?" He goes, "Yeah, yeah." He says, "I belong to a couple." I said, "One is focused on cooking and recipes." He said, "Another one is focused on management and pricing, how much we charge for different things."
Hmm.
And then his dad happened to be with him. And I said, "What kind of job do you do?" He says, "Well, I'm a member of blah, 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 blah union.
Hmm.
We do this type of construction." I said,
Hmm.
"Well, that's the ultimate association. You guys get together and
Right.
you decide things." Well,
Hmm.
CPS is the same way. Their social workers get together, they share strategies, they share techniques, they share training, and their attorneys. Most of them are county council or state attorneys. They
I
get together
realized that too.
and
Yes.
they share that information. you know I didn't realize this, but this happened I think years ago. A friend of mine um was a county council. He's retired, been retired. And
Hmm.
he had gotten divorced, and he was dating around. And years ago we were talking about that.
Hmm.
And I ran into an attorney in another county, a very attractive female attorney who came up to me, knowing that I was from LA, asked me,
Hmm.
"Do you know attorney so and so?" And I said, "Well, yeah, I know him fairly well." I said, "Why do you ask?" And she told me, "Well, we met at a county council seminar,
Hmm.
on how to defend social workers." And it was
Hmm.
then that I realized these people get together and they talk about ways, they develop playbooks on what they're
Oh my
going to
God.
do. And sometimes, when I'm dealing with county council in cases here in California, I chuckle to myself sometimes because I see techniques that these county council use to try to gain an advantage in a
Oh
case.
yeah.
Now,
Yes.
listen, I don't blame them. That's their
Hmm.
job. That's their
Well,
job, to
if you think
represent the
about
social worker to the best of their ability.
it.
But I
Right.
chuckle because I see the same strategies, right? And
Right.
many, many years ago, attorneys in LA County had a group, of, I think it was called juvenile defense lawyers or something like that.
Hmm.
But it was an association where we exchanged ideas, we
Wow.
s- exchanged tactics, right?
Right.
They don't necessarily have that anymore, mainly because most people in LA County are defended by three or four different court appointed law firms, and
Hmm.
from what I understand, they get together and they do their own trainings. But if you're a private dependency defender, you're left to attend trainings, and there are some trainings. There's some very good trainings, as a matter of fact,
Hmm.
statewide, but nothing local, like in a local association that I'm aware of, anyway. But
Wow.
but you, it's
It's
the same playbook nationwide.
I believe it. I believe it because I remember during the nearly a year of going through my court hearing with CPS that my attorney, and I would recommend definitely get an attorney because I started out trying to do it myself. And oh my God, I was so real. It was like I was a laughing joke. It's no way you can deal by yourself, with this type of level of the government and CPS. Hire someone like yourself if they can't get you because I was blown away, you know, trying to represent myself because it's bigger than what you can ever imagine and what you're dealing with CPS.
Right.
Um,
I'm glad you said that because, you know, years ago when people would tell me what you told me, I
mhm.
would try to convince them that they were making a mistake.
Really?
hmm Now I don't do that. This is what I say to people. I don't recommend you representing yourself. Talk to a
Don't do
lawyer.
it.
Don't have
Don't.
the lawyer doesn't have to be me. Just find a lawyer that's, experienced and
Oh my
competent.
God.
Because if
Yes.
you do, it's going to end up to disaster.
Oh
Now,
my God. I was in shreds afterwards. I actually
right.
ended up having 5 attorneys before it was over with.
So here's what people think. Okay.
Hmm.
Do people that ever represent themselves win?
No.
And the answer is no. The answer is yes. It's about 1 out of 1,000. Okay. Do you know what percentage that is?
Very low.
When you get to a calculator
Hmm.
after this show, do
Okay.
1/1,000 and see what that percentage is. That is
Wow.
the percentage you have to win
I
if,
believe you. I lived it. I
yeah,
know.
if if you're going to represent yourself. So it's is the actual number is less than a lot less than 1%. Now,
Wow.
are you going to put the most important case in your life about your
Correct.
children
Correct.
and go to the game, the court,
Right. Great
the
point.
venue with less than 1% of chance of winning?
Great
I,
point.
I don't think you should do that. You
I'm
know,
gonna say don't do it because
right,
I did it and I could have lost my child behind it because I didn't have the intelligence. I didn't have, and it's not just the intelligence, but it just like you said, it's a playbook. You have to know how to handle CPS. You have to know the laws. It's
right.
so much it entails
He-
that you
he-
cannot do it alone.
right. And now here's what you have to know.
Hmm.
You have to know, number one, the general laws of CPS in your state.
Right. I realized that.
Number
Yes.
two, number two, you have to know the appellate laws, the case law. All right.
Yes.
A lot of
Right.
people go to court just reading the statutes, thinking they have an understanding, but they don't know about the cases that interpret those statutes, because
That's
sometimes
right.
red means green, green means red,
That's
yes
right.
means no, no means yes.
That's
And so
right. I realized that the hard
their
way.
common right, their common sense is all screwed up.
Oh my
Now,
God.
here's the other thing. You got to know evidence in CPS cases in your state. How do
That's
you
right.
get in favorable evidence? How do you keep out favorable evidence? All right. Number two,
Right.
you have to know the procedural laws. Okay.
Right.
And then after all of that, in at least in California, they have state rules and they have
Mhm.
local rules.
It's a
Now you got
lot.
to put all that together and
Right.
understand how it works.
Right.
I would venture to say that I have never in my career of 37 years this year met
Wow.
a
A long
person
time. My
that
God.
can do that. Hell,
I
it's hard
believe
enough.
you.
It's hard enough. It's hard enough if you're a 15-year attorney to do it.
I
You,
believe you.
yeah,
I have a
you,
whole new I have a whole new respect for you actually.
a
Knowing
lot.
how to handle these cases.
Most of a
My
lot,
God.
not most. A lot of the people who refer me cases are lawyers, experienced lawyers in their own field that don't do this type of law, and they're not going
Wow.
to take the chance in trying to do something like this. They're just
Right.
rather refer to somebody who they think is an expert.
Of course. It's
There,
such so
there's
much.
there's
Right.
there's a man who is a very well-known criminal attorney in the state of
Hmm.
California that refers me cases all the time. And
Wow.
he's a very well-known criminal attorney. But you know what he says about juvenile dependency or CPS court?
What'd he say?
Well, he describes it as a black hole. Like,
My God.
he can never understand what's going on in CPS court. And one of the reasons why is because, different courts, different areas of the law apply the same rules
Hmm.
differently, right?
Hmm.
So to him, hearsay evidence is one thing in
Hmm.
criminal court, and he's right.
Right.
But if you go over to CPS court,
It's
hearsay
totally
evidence
different.
totally different. It's applied differently, and if you say something, they'll look at you like you're from Mars. I'm going to tell you a funny story. This is a few weeks ago, I recently was doing a case in another county up north. I won't say the county. Okay.
Okay.
And The social worker's attorney, or maybe it was a minor's attorney, wanted to introduce a drug test. Okay.
Okay.
I objected, and I objected on the basis that it was hearsay and that it didn't satisfy Kelly Fry. Now, Kelly Fry is a term of art in California that if it's a scientific test, before it's
Hmm.
admitted into evidence, it has to satisfy these cases. Okay. We
Okay.
just don't let in any
Right,
old
right.
scientific
Of
evidence.
course. Right.
Guess what a drug test is? Scientific evidence.
Right. Of
So
course.
when I said that, the judge looked at me. I mean, you should have seen the look on this judge's face.
I can only imagine.
And it was as if, well, wait a minute. This guy's very experienced. Why is he bringing up Kelly Fry? Well, I'm bringing it up because it's a basis to object to some scientific evidence.
Evidence. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's normally what you need in court. Yeah.
Now, and here's the other reason I'm trying to
Wow.
make a record, right? If I
Right.
have to appeal, if I don't bring that up, I can't
Wow.
bring it up on appeal. But it was, I don't think anybody in the courtroom caught that.
Wow.
Okay. But I caught it because he looked at me like, are you from Mars? Like, what in the world are you talking about, Kelly Fry? But it's those type of
This
things,
experience. Oh
right?
my
That
God.
can be very important. So
Yeah.
when people tell me, "Hey, I'm going to represent myself," I'm thinking,
You must be wanting to not win your case and getting your children back.
right,
I'm telling you, when I did it myself, the case continued even longer, and actually it was giving CPS even more of a weapon to use against me because I didn't know. And I want to also, just to piggyback on that, when I got to the final hearing, which took nearly a year, my attorney, and I didn't even know this, CPS never even said anything or mentioned it to me about this, but the person who they were trying to give my child to was a charged child molester. Okay. When my attorney mentioned that, we were literally standing in court in front of the judge, and she said, "This is who they're trying to give this child to." I could tell by the judge's face reaction that she had no idea that, you know, that this person was not even, and like I say, the key word, like my attorney mentioned, was charged, proven guilty already. And again, that's why I say the importance of having a professional attorney like yourself who knows how to obviously win CPS cases. If I never even knew that this individual was even a charged child molester. And CPS response after the judge had asked them, "Were you aware that this person had, this is going on in their criminal history?" You know what CPS said? They didn't. Lies on top of lies on top of lies. So what I'm saying is, by having a reputable attorney that was able to provide effective evidence of information, that literally changed the entire trajectory of the case, of where you can't take this child and place him with someone with this history, of course. And that is when the table begins to turn, where they begin to, return him back home. But to me, they bank on your lack of knowledge.
right. Oh yeah, oh yeah. Their lack of knowledge and your lack of experience.
Yes, sir. You
You know,
lack of knowledge, lack of experience, lack of resources. Seem like I had someone to tell me, "You went to school and college, and normally they don't target these kind of people." And I'm like, "What do you mean?" Well, they said, "Well, normally they target people, they, like you just mentioned, they don't have lack of knowledge or lack of resources."
mhm.
I was a single mom at the time, yes, but I believe in educating myself. And but yeah, I noticed just Going in so many cases with CPS for nearly a year, I noticed the majority of the demographics that was in court, it was normally people, um, sadly to say, made of color, uneducated, single parents, lack of income. It was the same type of people that was sitting in these courtrooms, and I was shocked.
Right. You know, many years ago,
Hmm.
an attorney that helped train me, may he rest in peace, he's deceased now,
Okay.
um, brought or wanted to bring a case against CPS for the discriminatory enforcement
Mm,
of child abuse laws in Los Angeles County. This may have
wow.
been 25 years ago.
Hmm.
And, you know, I was a much younger attorney, obviously, but I was standing in the courthouse in Los Angeles County,
Hmm.
and I looked around, you know, and I saw a sea of people. Um, I would have to say, without exaggerating, maybe 95% black and brown.
Wow.
Now, it's interesting. I've heard many people say this: child abuse has no color lines,
Right. That's true.
but the enforcement seemed a little odd, right?
Yes. Very.
And back then, I don't know if you remember this. You might be too young to remember this. There was an epidemic in a lot of across the country, but especially in major cities. There was something called the crack epidemic.
The crack. Yes, I do. I remember.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So what happened is you would have all these babies born
Right.
on crack,
Right.
and in LA, if they were born at Martin Luther King Hospital down there
Hmm.
in deep South Los Angeles, predominantly
Hmm.
black, and it was
Hmm.
turning brown at the time. Uh,
Hmm.
all these crack babies, you know,
Hmm.
and I can remember every time I would show up to court because I was a court appointed attorney back then. I'd get, you know, it seemed like every day I would get a new case, crack baby case.
My God.
But you know where we didn't see any cases coming from across town from Cedar Sinai,
Hmm.
right, which was a predominantly white hospital.
Right. Hmm.
And I was told, I don't know if this is true, there are crack babies being born there too, but for whatever reason, the
It
CPS
wasn't.
wasn't filing those
It wasn't
cases.
messing with them. Exactly. I knew you was going to say that. Wow. So
So,
it is. Yeah.
well, I don't know. I mean, that's not proof of anything, right? It's just an interesting observation.
Right. But
Right.
statistics seem like it shows
Right.
though that
Right.
it's,
Now
yeah.
I can tell you right now, LA County is not predominantly black and brown.
Right.
But still, I went to the court the other day for the first time in a maybe the second or third time in a long time because of COVID. They're doing everything online. But,
Hmm.
I was looking around and, for the people that were there,
Hmm.
they're black and brown.
Right. Right.
So I
It
don't
was shocking
know.
for me to see that. Yeah.
I don't know if, this guy who was my mentor was accurate. It
Hmm.
just seems odd to me. Now,
Yeah.
have I ever seen non-white families in juvenile dependency court? Yes, I have.
Right. Right. Of course. Right.
But it's just seems to be a little off on the numbering
You
system.
took the words out of my mouth. The numbers are completely off. Yes,
Just just
shockingly
just
off.
an just an observation, just an
Right.
observation.
Right.
And then when I go to counties, say up north, um, where there aren't a lot of, black and brown folks,
Hmm.
I see a lot of cases of white clients or
Hmm.
white litigants in these cases, but
Hmm.
they're all generally economically deprived, right?
Interesting. Hmm.
Or in some of the counties, because they're the American Indians,
Hmm. Hmm.
are prevalent or a lot. They file on them a lot,
Wow.
right?
but it still seemed like it's still, they're like typecast. Like it's still only certain
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
people, yeah, that keeps getting it over and over again. Like I said with myself, it's like certain people they just continue to mess with, and it also seemed like within, I had a lady that here in Texas where they will give you visits, where every so often you can meet with I think I forgot what they call them, but they're the intake people. They're supposed to be like the middle person, you know, doing your visits with your child and report back to CPS. And as I would continue to come on my visits, she would tell me, they're not treating you right. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And at the time you're scared because you don't know, like she was like, well, you need to file something against that. You need another casework. And I'm like, I'm not doing anything like that, because it seemed like to me they will use it against you. Like I had a counselor that told me that we're through with our sessions, but for some reason she want me to continue your sessions. And I don't even have anything to go over anymore with you about. So, I went through a lot of that type of thing. And honestly, I must tell anybody, it was the grace of God that gave me the strength to deal with what I was dealing with. I mean, CPS was willing to pay a $10,000 brain test that the counselor said that they wanted to order against me. And I'm like, a brain test? Like, what is this for? So because this is not the, just the, it seemed like they were throwing everything that they possibly could against me. They're ordering $10,000 brain tests. They're telling me when you take the psychological evaluation test and the results came back where I passed. So then they're her at the time, the caseworker was like, well, maybe she's too smart she knows how to answer the questions. Okay, so we can't use this against her. So that didn't work. Now let me order a brain test. So I'm thinking like, no, wait a minute. I can't be both of them. You can't be intelligent and dumb at the same time. Like, which one are y'all going to use? So my attorney was like, they're just looking whatever they can find to hold it against you, basically. I was weekly getting tested for drugs. I've never done drugs in my entire life, but I was weekly having to go. Even the people at the places like, this is odd. Like, I've never seen them do this. It's almost like it was personal. It was personal. I know my attorney had told me that don't look at this as this is just about you and your child. It's bigger than that. And at the time, I'm like, huh? But if I hadn't had an attorney, and I thank God for you, I do. I truly do. Because knowledge is power. Transparency transforms. And
I want to ask you a question. Having gone through this experience, what's the number one or two things you would tell parents who are dealing with CPS right now to know that you've learned from your experience there in Fort Worth, Texas?
Great question. I would say, don't give up. Don't never give up. I remember 1 week, I lost 30 pounds in 1 week. I kid you not. I kid you not. I got to a place anymore. I didn't want to even live anymore. I'm going to be honest with you. I was so stressed out. I was ashamed. I was embarrassed. I lost my home. I lost my degree. I was in my last 2 or 3 classes from receiving my psychology degree. I was so stressed out. Even with losing everything, I held on to my faith in God. I kid you not. God be my witness. I kept the faith when everything else was leaving me. I mean, literally, the house, my son, they placed him in, I told you, they placed him in the system. I lost my home, money, everything that means value to your life normally. I lost it. Only thing I didn't lose was my faith in God. And that is what gave me the strength to fight this evil monster. That I was very unaware and uneducated, highly uneducated of what they were trying to do against me. So that is my key advice, is to, no matter how hard it feels, some days if you just feel like you're depleted and you can't go any further, find some time for yourself. self-care, no matter what that looks like. I will catch a dollar movie. I will go to the dollar store. I would, whatever, that gave me that peace of mind. And I use that to build me up. And I must say this as well. This might sound a little ironic. Even with them saying that I was constantly being tested for drugs, never done drugs in my entire life. I, all the things they were trying to do against me, they would allow me to go to church with my son. And I thought that was very odd. And I say, if you see me as this type of person, but you still allow me to do this. So it showed me that this was something that I was dealing with that was bigger than me. Maybe God was going to use my story to encourage other people that's going through the same thing. But when I tell you, I done been through hell and back. And at the end of the case, they did tell me you overcame what we tried to do. You overcame. And the only way I overcame is because I never gave up. I went to every appointment. Like I said, I went to every drug test. Even when you feel like, why do I have to do this? I don't take drugs. Do it anyway. If that's what it takes to help you get your kids back, to get your kids out of this hostile, God knows what environment they're living in, whatever it takes to bring them back home, do it. Rise above the games that they play. Rise above the lies, the false accusations. Do everything they tell you to do. And another thing that helped me, they never saw me mad. Because again, like I said, I could tell they were trying to get brain tests or drugs. Maybe we'll catch her in a crazy episode or acting weird or whatever. I always was the same way. Even in court, I had one attorney looked at me because the CPS attorney, I was reading a book while I was in court. We was on break. The judge hadn't, had the hearing, but I was in the meantime, I was just reading my book and I saw her kept looking at me like, what is she doing? So the image that they try to portray you as, show them something different in a positive way. Show up all the time. Do what they tell you to do. But most importantly, don't give up on getting your children back. I got my son back and they completely changed their story. Completely. Almost as if they even apologized from the things they put me through.
When you say they changed their story, what do you mean?
Well, they at first, again, I guess with their narrative, they have to prove that you're unfit. Like that's the reason why they're taking the child away, whether you're dealing with drugs or they think you're dealing with a mental illness or your disability or, abandoning your child or whatever abuse, whatever they trying to use as their narrative. You asked me, what do I do? What I mean when I say that? You have to, as if they're playing a game, the system play their games, play the game also. But play the game where you're beating them at their own game. Everything they're trying to see you as, make yourself better. Even your appearance. I didn't go to court with just anything on. They're looking at everything. That was my experience. My attorneys say, don't go in there with just any kind of way, your hair, the way you dress. Take it up a notch. Take it up a notch. Once you get your child back, go back to your jeans, your casual t-shirts, whatever. But while you're in the system, playing this game, be the best version of yourself that you can ever be. Even afterwards, if you have to go out that courtroom and cry yourself home. But don't let them see you sweat. Don't let them take you out of your character. I stayed positive. I didn't let them, they couldn't say she's an angry woman, angry Black woman, or whatever the case may be. They couldn't say that. And I did every single thing that they asked me to do, even if it was ridiculous. So most importantly, I would say is to keep your faith in God. Have an attorney like yourself. If they can't get you, if they're in a different state or whatever, have somebody that knows how to work CPS cases. Because if you don't, it can do more harm to you than good. and don't never give up. I don't care. I was weeks because here in Texas, if they have your child within the system within a year, I believe they can automatically take your child. Seem like, or so I don't know how it's worded, but I think after 12 months, if they've been with them for so long, it's I forgot the name of it, but it's almost like they can take over adoption or something like that. And I still didn't give up. And I had things that they were saying against me that wasn't even true. But I still went to every court hearing. I still went to every court appearance. I still took every drug test. I was at every visit when it was time for me to see my child. I like to also say that I don't, without saying too much, but the person that they was trying to give my child over to, they took him off of child support. He no longer had to pay child support that he owed. It's like they were cushioning him. I heard that they was doing special arrangements with him. Like I said, it was personal with me. It's almost like they went with just a person who they liked. Rather, if he felt the qualifications of getting the child or not, it's who they liked. Thank God my CPS judge attorney was able to say, hey, yeah, but this person has charged child molestation. So how's this person credible like you say they are? And I would have never had that evidence if my attorney wouldn't have shared that information.
Turn the whole case around.
It turned the case around. I want to say yeah, that week, or not the next day, he was returned. And it's almost like they just, when I seen when my attorney that knows how to fight CPS cases made that statement in court, the judge literally raised her hands like this and said, I can't touch this. I cannot release a child over to someone with this type of criminal history. I mean, this is going against CPS, right? Y'all are there to protect kids. So why would you want to put them in a place of someone who has a history of harming children? So the judge is like, I can't touch this. And since I was doing everything that they told me to do, as far as going to my visits, doing my testing, going to all my hearings and appointments, they didn't have nothing else to say. He was released by the grace of God.
How long ago was that?
This was back in 2018.
Okay. How old is he now?
He's 10.
Did he ever talk about his experiences in foster care?
He did. He did.
Positively, negatively, neutral?
It was negative. I remember he told me that when they placed him in the at 4 years, when they had played, he was around 4 years old. They placed him in a mental ward, saying that he was demon possessed. I didn't even know you can place a child in a facility saying that they're demon possessed. I don't know. I mean, is that anyway? He said he remembered in the beds that he constantly was being bitten by ants. And one of the CPS attorneys will come and might bring him a cookie or something, but it was. He felt like I could see the anguish in his face, like he was going through. It was a nightmare. He said in so many words, Mama, where I'm at, ants were biting me in the bed. They were putting me in different rooms. And this is a mental facility that they placed him in that eventually was on the news, that they had to shut it down because they were overdosing the patients.
Have you ever thought about getting your child a lawyer and suing?
I had, and I was still so broken after that year. It took so much out of me going through that. Oh my God. I know this sounds crazy, but I don't even know if I even had, I wanted to, but I was just so relieved at getting my son back because I made I said this to myself. If I pull him out of this vicious system of CPS on my last breath, then so be it. As long as I get him out of this system on my last breath, I will still be okay. So to answer your question, so much was taken out of me. Like I said, I lost 30 pounds in 1 week from stress. and anxiety and insomnia and everything you can think of. I did look into it, but I didn't, because I had someone that worked for CPS that said they definitely violated your rights. They did.
Anyway, it's just a thought that I had.
Okay.
Latrika, do you? You don't have to tell me, but are do you work a full-time job?
After everything I've been through, I have started working in a ministry. I work in a ministry for myself, and we help domestic violence victims. We help elderly special needs care. Like I said, my son deals with autism, and I have took that on full circle with domestic violence and even dealing with victims. We try to help that is going through CPS, things of that nature. So that's what I do full time. I have a ministry called Daddy Lights Ministry, and that's what we do to help. I do that full time.
Would you be interested in doing a show on our platform?
Yes,
Okay, this is what I want you to do.
absolutely.
She doesn't work on Sundays,
Okay.
um, but I want you to call Grace, not call her, but email her,
Okay.
Grace at vincentwdavis.com.
Okay.
She'll know who you are because she gave me a little blurb about you yesterday,
I love her
and that's
name. Yes. Very
and that's how,
nice.
and that's how I had your phone number to call you this morning.
Okay, good.
But I want you to call her, or no, email her, Grace at
Email her.
vincentwdavis.com, and
Okay.
tell her that we talked on the show yesterday and that I talked to you about doing a show on our platform. Because
Okay.
I think you have a lot of information to share with people going through this
Yes, I do.
unfortunate phase of their life,
I
and
do.
I would consider you a veteran, and and thank God you're a successful veteran. You got your child back.
Yes, sir. That was worth it for me. And that's why I love doing this, to help others get their children back as well. Because I know it's possible, because I did it.
Right. All righty. Well, Miss Jones, I want to thank you for being on the show this morning,
Oh, it was an
sh-
honor and a pleasure. It really,
and sh-
it really is.
and sharing it with everyone out there. This video will be on the internet on about 8 different social media platforms forever,
Wow.
so people can watch it. As a matter of fact, I was looking at this the other day.
Hmm.
We get a lot of views from people watching the taped version of the show. They don't necessarily watch it live. Some people
Really?
watch.
Oh, the
Yeah,
reruns. Oh,
yeah. Well,
wow.
because it's up there all the time. It's not rerun. You can watch it on
You can
demand.
watch it anytime. Yes,
Yeah.
yes. I do the same thing with your show. If I miss it, I always watch the reruns.
Right. 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 But so it'll be up there forever, and people hopefully that don't even know they're going to catch a CPS case, a year from now, will be able to see it and listen to you. Okay.
That is such a blessing. And if you don't, also mind me sharing, even in a book I wrote, it's called Beautifully Bruised. It's on Amazon, and it is telling you how I overcame and the emotions and everything I went through with CPS to help me get to a place to get my child back. So I
What's the
would
name
love.
of What's the name of it again?
Actually, it's called Beautifully Bruised.
Hold on, I'm typing it in the comments.
Okay.
Beautifully Bruised. So
Yes.
everyone, go to Amazon, check out that book. All right.
Thank you.
All right. And we'll be in touch with Latrika. I hope to be working with you in the future.
It will be an honor for me. Thank
All
you so
righty.
much.
All righty. Thank you for being on. Bye-bye. All right, everyone. That's the end of the show today. We'll be back tomorrow, Monday, 7 p.m., Monday through Friday. So check us out. Thank you. Bye-bye.